My name is Kristen Chevrier, and I'm the Utah County Republican Party Education Officer. And it's very important to me that everybody who's running the caucuses be trained to do it. We have some new rules and procedures that haven't been in place before. So I'm hoping that tonight's training will make you comfortable with those. So we're going to start with advanced preparation. A lot of this I'm hoping is getting close to done, but we'll go over it. Does everyone know where your caucus is being held?
We found out today.
Excellent, so you do know. Okay, if you don't know where your caucus is being held, it's your ledge district officers who should be telling you that. And if you don't know who they are, then let's talk after and make sure that you know. Do you know how you're going to advertise your caucus? There are lots of different ways you can do that. You can make a flyer. And I sent out to all the precinct chairs and vice chairs who have working email addresses. I sent out an attachment with a flyer that goes over a lot of the frequently asked questions about caucuses. And you're welcome to use this and add things to it or use part of it, whatever you think would work best for your precincts, and have people take it around to all of the registered Republican voters, or you can take it to everybody in your precinct. However you'd like to do it is fine. But there should be a link to that in the most recent email that I sent about trainings. And if you didn't get that, you can let me know afterwards, and we'll take care of that. There are lots of materials that are helpful for you to have at your caucus. Some of those would be tape. You need to make sure that it's the kind of tape that's okay to be used in the building that you're in. Sometimes they don't like certain kinds of tape. So this painter's tape is probably fairly safe. And there's something called gaffer's tape that I don't have any of, but I'm sure you can find it somewhere. Dry erase markers. Sometimes the schools will have them and sometimes they don't. It's a good idea to see if maybe when your legislative district officers are going on a walkthrough of the school, you might want to see if you could join them. And in fact, I would suggest to the ledge district officers that they offer that to their precinct chairs and vice chairs, whoever's hosting, so that they can see what room they're going to be in and what materials are available for them to use. Scissors are always a great idea to have. So at the beginning, the most important thing is you need to get it advertised. And my understanding is that within the week, we're going to have door hangers and signs. That's what I was told today at State Central Committee meeting. And we'll get the word out as soon as those are available. So that's another good way to advertise. Okay, there's one of the new things that we have is the same day balloting and the missionary and military balloting. Have you guys all heard of this? Or is this all news?
We've heard of it.
Heard of it, but you don't know. Okay. All right, so we're going to talk about that right now because this is something that happens in the caucus, but it's also something you have to prepare for ahead of the caucus. So I have these nifty little buckets that are actually my file storage buckets from downstairs, and my files are on cardboard right now. But anyway, so I'm using these, but you could just as easily use a big Ziploc, you know, the great big Ziplocs that you can get, and just label it the same way I'm labeling these. And afterwards, if anybody wants to come up and take a picture of this, just so that you know what it looks like, that would be great. So there are two kinds of absentee ballots that we're allowing this time. One of them is the same day voting, or whatever you want to call it. I just keep calling it same day. So if you can't come to the caucus and there's somebody you know who is coming to the caucus, that person can bring up to 3 same-day absentee ballots with them to the caucus. So if there's somebody like who has to work or can't leave because they've got little kids or whatever, they can call Susie down the street and say, I know you're going to the caucus, can you take a ballot in for me? And the procedure is that you print out the same day ballot off of your website, and the websites should be active very soon. I've got an address for them, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. You print out a specific ballot that has an identifying number, so we're not going to have any duplicate ballots. One person can only have one ballot. They fill in the ballot. It'll be pre-populated with anybody who's already filed to run for any particular office, and then there will be places for write-ins. And so Tamara is not going to come to the caucus. Pretend. Tamara's not, she better come to the caucus. And she's going to send her ballot with Dave. So Tamara, if you don't mind, would you just come up here for a second? Okay. You want to set that down? Okay. So Tamara she just printed this ballot off of the website. She's going to fill it in. And then, here, I'll have you actually just use a real envelope that's not already used. Okay. She's going to fill it in. And then she's going to put it inside the, you don't have to really fill it in. It's not really. It's really not. All right. And you're going to put it in the envelope. Okay. And then she's going to seal it, sign it across the seal. Yeah, you don't have to really do it. I'm going to sign across the seal, and then she's going to print her name below the signature.
Because you can't read her signature.
Yeah, because we can't read Tamara's writing. She's terrible. And then she's going to make a copy of her photo ID, her driver's license, or her passport, or some other government-issued ID. She's going to take this and the copy. Here's your copy. And she's going to go over to Dave's house, and she's going to give it to him.
My ID?
Yeah, that's your ID.
My ID and my signed and printed envelope.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Now you can go home.
Would it be better if she stuck the ID
No.
in the ballot?
And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why.
Okay, so that's all, right?
That's it. You're done. Tamara's done. No, Dave, keep it.
Really?
Keep it, yeah.
Let's take a note on it.
Oh, wow. Do you want it back?
No,
Yeah, trade
no,
Dave.
no.
Here we go. Trade. There we go.
Thank you.
Okay, so now Dave has the ballot. You can, well, no, just stay right there for a second. Dave is now ready to go to the caucus. So we'll go through more about the caucus in a second, but I just want you to have this all in your heads, okay? So Dave walks into the caucus. We have a special line, special table for same-day ballots and for missionary military ballots. And Dave is going to come up to the desk, and he's going to hand this to me. And Shauna, can you come here for a second? So Shauna's my partner here at the same-day ballot table. Dave is going to hand us this picture ID, photo of the picture ID, right? No, photo. Anyways, the copy of the ID. Okay, and the envelope. And Shauna and I are going to look at this, and we're going to say, okay, it's the same name, same signature. Okay, we'll accept this. We're going to hand the ID back to Dave, who can take it and rip it up, or he can take it back to Tamara after the caucus is over, but it's not our problem, okay? We're not responsible for the photo ID copy. And then Shauna is going to take this envelope and she's going to mark off on, pretend we have a registered voter list. She's going to mark off on that list that Tamara Atkin cast an absentee ballot. So she's just going to put a check mark right there, and then this envelope goes in here. Okay? We'll go over this again in a minute. Thank you, Shauna. Okay, so now her ballot's in here. Now let's talk about missionary and military, okay? Missionary and military and religious service. It can be any kind of religious service. It doesn't have to be LDS, any kind of thing that takes you outside of our state and you're a resident of our state and you want to participate in the caucus. So these people have to contact the state, they have to contact the precinct chair and vice chair by email and say, I would like to cast an absentee ballot. I am out of the state for this reason and cannot attend my caucus. Then the precinct chair takes the information from the email and verifies that this person actually does live in their precinct. So you could call the family, look at the registered voter list, whatever you need to do to make sure that this person actually lives in the precinct. And maybe you already know that the person lives in the precinct, and that's fine. And then you email back and you say, that's great. These are the people who are running, or you can write in anybody you want. And then they have to get an email back to you in time for you to print it out, put it in an envelope, and take it with you to caucus. Now, if they don't email both
I'm sorry, could you repeat? I was busy writing.
okay, where did I lose you?
Regarding these people, these are the people who are running. If you have a list of those, please select.
Okay.
And anybody else in the caucus that they want to vote.
Yeah, they can put in anybody they want.
And then I got lost, sorry.
Okay, so they're going to write down, and we're going to talk about preferential voting, but all the absentee ballots are going to be in preferential voting format, because otherwise they can only vote for one person and then they're done. So preferential voting means you put your first choice first, then your second choice, then your third choice for each office. And then those ballots will be counted in every round unless they're out of candidates on their ballot, and all their candidates have either won or eliminated. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. Okay. So anybody who does absentee has to use preferential voting, or their vote is just not
so
very
they can vote for more than one, so they can vote for 5 individuals?
Sure. Yeah, as many as they want. If they vote for only one, then their chances of actually casting a vote for somebody are pretty slim. Or that they'll cast one vote and then it's over. Okay, so the military missionary things go in the same place as the same day ballots, okay? Now, if you have questions about this, make sure you're jotting them down, and we'll go over it some more. Okay, I'll take a quick question.
I was a little confused. Can they vote by email, or do they have to send a ballot in by email?
No, these missionary military, it's email. The email is the ballot. Okay, so you're going to do that, and that's your stuff that you're going to have these ballots printed out and ready to go in time for the caucus. The other thing, go ahead.
How are you going to know who the candidates are? Most of them stand for the candidacy tonight.
Okay, the only ones that you'll know for sure who they are the people who pre-file.
How do they know who to vote for?
How are they going to hear their speech? They won't.
Oh, is that what you're asking?
Well, no, the candidates stand for their candidacy. They to be a delegate.
How do you know they're not?
So how do you tell somebody in advance who the candidates are going to be?
The websites, and we're going to talk about that.
She's talking about nominations from the floor tonight.
Right, okay. The people who are nominated from the floor, unless they know that somebody's running, they're not going to know. So if I have, say my husband is in Afghanistan and I want him to be able to vote, I will tell him who's running, but I will also tell him anybody that I know who might want to write in and want to be nominated from the floor. And then that's all they know. That's the best we can do.
And so they pass,
Yes, on same day they can do that too.
and they pass the ballot for every office, for every delegate, for every county delegate, every state delegate, so they have a long ballots.
Yeah, it's a long email. Yes. Yep. Okay, so now we'll go over this part a little more because there's more detail that I want you to have on the same day military missionary, and so we're going to go over that some more. What was your question?
I understand you to say that in order for missionaries and militaries to have to contact both the precinct chair and vice chair?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and there's a reason. That makes it so that we don't have a precinct chair who's stacking the ballots. Okay? So if the precinct chair and vice chair both see it, then we know that it's legitimate and we don't, it's just a safeguard.
Can it be another delegated on? I don't have precinct chair anymore.
In some precincts, it's going to have to be a little bit different because there are some that just don't have the officers. So work that out in your precinct. But
so they send a ballot to both the precinct chair and vice chair?
Just copy them on the email. Yeah, just one email, but just CC the vice chair or whoever the designated second person is. And if for any reason the chair and the vice chair or the two designated people agree that the ballot is not valid for any reason, they can spoil that ballot. Because there may, I don't know, we came up with some scenarios, but I can't remember what they are. I don't think it's very likely that it's going to happen, but if they both agree that there's something wrong with the ballot, then they can consider it a spoiled ballot. Okay, So now we're gonna skip a little bit. There's more on this, and I'll get back to it. We're gonna get to setting up registration. So when you get to your caucus, and I suggest you arrive probably a couple hours early, wouldn't hurt, at least an hour early so that you can get everything set up. You're going to set up a place for same-day missionary military, and you're going to set up another place for people to register to vote and affiliate. And then you have a third place for all the people who pre-registered and are registering that night, okay? So this place right here is going to be the most crowded, and you're going to want to move the most quickly. So you're going to have one registrar per 25 attendees last time. So if you had 200 attendees last time, how many registrars do you need?
8.
Good. You guys are great. Okay, so 8 registrars at this table if you had 200
Now these
last
are
time.
people, that's registered voters. That's what you mean by pre-registered.
I'll explain pre-registered in just a second. And then have a different place for people who want to affiliate. You know, you can affiliate that night. So if you're not a Republican but you want to participate, or you're not even registered to vote and you want to participate in the caucus, you can come and register to vote that night. You fill out the form, and I recommend having a highlighted voter registration form at your voter registration desk, and also at this desk where people are coming to sign in. Because that way your workers can look very quickly, they can compare what whoever, Julie, is registering to vote tonight. And she filled in her form, and we want to make sure she filled in all of the important things. One of the very important things is Republican affiliation. If they didn't mark that box, then they can't participate in the meeting. So highlight all of the required information on a page ahead of time, and then when your people are taking voter registration forms and deciding whether somebody can actually sign in and participate, they can look at all these and remind them if they missed something. A couple of years ago, the last time we had a caucus, we had tons of voter registration forms filled out, and we had tons of mistakes. And guess what? The county brought them all back to the ledge districts and let us sort it out. And there were many people who registered to vote who didn't put a phone number. Some of them didn't put an address. So they thought they registered, or maybe they didn't really register and they were just hoping to get in and participate. I have no idea what happened, but it was a lot of work. So make sure that these are filled in correctly.
And are those online to print out?
They are online to print out, yes. And if people are registering that night or close to that night, they really should fill out a paper, because sometimes the county doesn't have the website updated with everybody who registered online. So just, if there's any question, just have them register again. And I would have at least one person, maybe 2 people at this table. I have no idea how many people you guys have at all your caucuses, so it just kind of depends on how many people you have. But have enough people at every table that you don't have a lot of confusion or a lot of people waiting in line for a long time. So after they've filled out the form over here, then they can come back here to the sign-in table and hand the form to the people there and sign in to participate in the caucus. Only registered Republicans can participate, and when you sign in, did somebody say my name?
No.
I thought somebody had a question. Okay, when they sign in, what I recommend, you don't have to do this, there are various ways that you could do this, but the easiest way that I've come up with, or that I've heard about, I didn't come up with it myself, is to give them a name tag. And on the name tag, you can put a sticker, a colored sticker, and choose a color that means affiliated. And then you know when they come up to cast a ballot, or when they raise their hand to speak, or they nominate someone, you know that they're an affiliated Republican. You could also choose a color for people who are just participating who aren't affiliated, if that helps you to sort things out, or you can just say pink is the color. And if you have a pink tag, you can talk and vote and participate. Yes?
They get wind of that.
They what?
They get wind of it. We've had people.
Okay.
I used those last time.
Are you serious?
Dead serious last time.
The colored
They-
wristbands. They can't.
They cannot remove because they removed them, they gave them to people, and they left. And that happened last time. They knew immediately how the system worked. It was a
Stores have wristbands. Yes, like party now.
Okay, well, if you've had problems with that in the past, then you may want to do wristbands.
And where do you get them?
Party stores. They were just saying party stores. Okay, so I think this has worked okay for us. But if you've had problems, definitely do something different. Go ahead.
I think you said 2 colors, one for registered and Republicans and the other for what?
Just for people who want to participate who aren't affiliated with the Republican Party.
And will they?
I mean, no, that's not what I meant. No, they can't participate. They can be there. They want to observe.
They just want to be present.
Yes, they just want to be present to watch what's going on. Okay, one more question, then we're going to move on.
So if we get stickers or wristbands or like the voter registration forms, do I pay for it for my precinct or what?
Usually that's what happens, but if you talk to your precinct, your ledge district leaders, there maybe they can work something out because there is a budget for caucus expenses. Just whatever we take out of that budget, then we can't spend on campaigns or whatever else. So, but usually I just buy my own stuff. Yes.
And if the people show up and they're not registered to vote, and you take their license, you must look at their address to make sure they live in the precinct. Because that also happened.
Where do you live?
Lehigh 07.
Those people in Lehigh. Okay. You should, yes, you should look at, if you don't know the people, frequently you'll know the people in your precinct anyway, but if you don't know who they are, it's a good idea to double check the address, even just for their sake, because if they have the wrong address, they may be in the wrong precinct. By accident. Yeah, so it's a good idea to check. Even if everybody's honest, it's a good idea to check. Okay, so you got your registration table set up. Oh, there's also the pre-registered attendees. And Dave, are you going to talk about that, or?
Yes.
Okay, is this a good time? Should we go ahead and do that? Okay. So today we got some information on websites and pre-registration and pre-filing, and I made Dave remember it all, so he has to tell you what it is.
Perfect. I just, excuse me, I just finished updating my notes on my phone from last time, so. Okay, so with electronic pre-registration, there will be a website provided by the party. It's not yet available, but it should be publicized soon. If you want to go and try it out, I can give you the URL. Looks like many of you are poised, ready to write. And if you want to write it down, I'll say it here slowly. So it's voterclick.com, and then /UTGOP_menu.php. Do you need me to say it again?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me say it again and then I'll come back to it. voterclick.com/UTGOP_menu.
M-I-N-U.
Menu, M-E-N-U.
Menu.
Menu, yes.
Oh my heavens. Menu.
And .php.
Try to make it as hard
Okay.
Is there not a link on our website or somewhere so that we can?
There isn't a link for that, and that right now is just kind of a test website. That won't be the real one. So if you want to go and look at it and kind of get an idea of what it's going to look like, it's probably not in its final form right now. But if you want to get a preview of it, that's available right now. The party will send out an email soon, the state party, when that's ready and accessible. So watch for that. And that will probably go to everyone, all the delegates, all the caucus attendees from last time, because they're all invited to go and pre-register to sign up on that ahead of time.
Tell me again who that email goes to. All the previous delegates?
I think it'll go to everyone who the party has an email address for.
All Are they going to do any advertising other than on email? Is anything going in the newspaper?
They're gonna do yard signs and they will have their
Door to door.
Door hangers, yard signs, and commercials.
When are those
running
available?
commercials? Huh?
When are the door signs?
We can't hear these
I
conversations.
asked today. It's supposed to be sometime
She
in the
wants to
next
know when the
week.
door signs are going to be ready.
That's all I have to say.
Kristen, you can see
They don't have them.
that commercial.
Yeah.
The state party sent out an email with that thing in it, so if you didn't get it, go to utgop.org, and it's probably on there where you can get it.
Okay, another
So if
question.
we go to this now, this is what you told us about voter pledge, you can't actually sign in now, or if we do, it won't still be there.
Yeah, you won't be able to sign up yet, but you'll be able to get a feel for where it is right now. Should be done soon. We only have 3 weeks left, right? So, okay, so that's where you can go get a preview. Let me just give you a quick overview of that process, what it'll look like. Okay. So once the user goes to that website, they'll be able to put in their name, their house number, and zip code. I think I can't remember all the details, but they'll put in some information that will identify their household, and then it will show them all the registered voters in that household. There may be more than one, husband and wife, adult children, relatives, whatever, and then they'll pick the one that's them. And then they can update whatever information they need to on there. Maybe their email address has changed or their phone number is different. They have a new cell phone number, something like that. And then they'll be able to print that out. And they can bring that form with them to the check-in booth as they come to the caucus meeting. And then what they do is they just hand that form to check in and their ID to the person there to check in. That saves a little bit of time. You don't have to look them up on the list. And if there's information to be updated on that list, they don't have to take the time right there to do that updating. So they just hand that form and their ID to the person who checks them in. The person checking them in just looks at their name on their ID and on the form, makes sure that's the same, looks at their picture on their ID and the person's face, makes sure that's the same, and then they hand back the ID and they put the form on the table and they tell them to proceed. And then later on during the meeting, you can do whatever you feel like you need to with that form. If you want to go through and check those people off, I'll put it in the box. Kristen is reminding me. Yes. And then that form can be checked off on the master list if you want to during the meeting as the meeting's proceeded. But we want to be able to start as soon as possible, as close to 7 o'clock as possible. So we want to get people through that line really fast. This may save us, 20 seconds per person.
So when the person comes to the table to register, or I show that they are a registered member of the Republican Party in this precinct, can you divide last names A through F, G through da, 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 da?
That's why you need 8 people.
Okay.
Yes, for every 25 registered voters,
Okay.
do another person tear that list off if that's a page each or whatever.
Can you divide the book? Or the
You can, or you can just have a full one at each station. Either way works. The drawback of dividing it is that sometimes people get in the wrong line, and then they get up to the front and find out they were in the A through D line, and they should have been in this line.
So make it clear which line is
So
which.
if you're going to do that, put signs up high where people can see.
Okay, got it.
And I think I said,
Magic book.
No, you create.
Oh, actually, the registered voter list, the county is providing for you.
yeah, so in the packet, each precinct host will get the list of registered voters in that precinct.
Not in the packet, sorry.
We'll have them.
Not in the packet? Okay, so they'll be delivered by the ledge chairs though,
Yeah.
after the packet. Okay. I think I said per every 25 registered voters. I didn't mean that. I meant per 25 attendees that you had last time. So. Sorry, that makes a horrible noise every time I get up close to my phone. Okay, did we have another question? They do if they haven't pre-registered. So then they can either get online and print out this form ahead of time, in which case they just hand the form and their ID, or if they just come and they haven't gotten online beforehand, then they have to give you their ID, and then you look them up on the list, and have them correct whatever they need to on that list, and then give them back their ID.
They sign the form or they sign your.
Do they have to sign? I think you can just check them off.
Because you'll have it right in your box. Whoever came, you're comparing their ID with, okay. You're going to compare their ID with the form that they bring in. And they're signing the form that they bring in. So you're going to look and say, Tamara Atkin looks like the Tamara Atkin on her driver's license. Her signature on the form she just handed me looks like the signature on the driver's license. And then you just put it in this box, and then that's your record that they're there. If you want to go back after and mark them off on your registered voter list so that you can have one sheet that has a total count of who was there, that's great too. But this just saves time, just gets people through the process faster, but you still have the record because they're handing it to you.
Those door hangers that they're going to provide to us, will they have most of this information on it, like to bring their ID, to maybe the URL where they can go and pre-register?
I hope so. I really don't know the answer. We were asking all over at State Central Committee meeting today, are we really getting door hangers? Are we really getting signs? And the answer was sometime next week. So I have no idea what they're putting on them, where they're getting the information. I'm sorry, I just don't know.
Okay, so one more thing on this electronic registration. Now, when they register ahead of time online, they're going to update all their information and have it ready, update their cell phone, their email address, whatever they need to, and you won't have to enter any of that data. If they don't pre-register and they update that information on the list, then after the meeting, you're going to have to update that information in VoterClick by yourself. So it's in your interest to get as many people to register ahead of time as possible, and hopefully the party will do a good job of that. At the State Central Committee meeting today, they seem committed to really pushing that. They expect half the people to register ahead of time. I don't know, I think that may be a little bit optimistic, but push for it if you can.
Are they advertising at all? I'm not registering.
They've started advertising. I've seen a couple of emails from the state party, but so far it's just...
The general public doesn't know anything.
Yeah, I don't know how wide the distribution was for those emails I've seen. I think they're going to everybody, but there will be more. Right now, they don't really have anything to point people to. It's really more of a request for donations, it seems, from what I'm seeing. So I wish they'd stop doing that because I think it's going to make people angry. Let me cover just one more thing real quickly. You can also do this on site if you have data-enabled devices like iPads with a cell plan, a data plan, or if you have access to the Wi-Fi in the building. You could have a bunch of volunteers, former delegates from whatever, bring their iPads with them and hand them to people in the lines before they get to the front. And they can go through this registration process before so you can have them pre-register before they check in if you have access to data or if you have access to Wi-Fi in the building where you are. Is there anybody here that's in the Alpine School District? Okay, so for those people, there's an Alpine Guest, ASD, I think, Alpine School District Guest Wi-Fi system in most of the schools. The password for that is Technology Air.
Yeah.
Spell that, please.
Technology and then AIR. It's just one word.
Any capitals?
Maybe a capital T.
I think it was with a capital T. So Technology Air, all one word.
What's that?
I said all the kids have it.
Yeah.
Yes, ask your students. And if you're in a different school district, ask your students. That'll probably be the way to do it. But the Alpine School District has one for guests, one for students, and one for faculty and staff. So that's the one for the guest, the password for the guest.
Right.
Yes, Technology Air with a capital T.
Okay, Technology Air with a capital T.
Will the ledge district chairs ask them to turn it on that night?
It'll be on. It's on. It's on all the time.
It is. Okay.
So they have to pre-register or already be registered voter. They can't register with a form when they get there, right?
No, they can't.
Okay.
So it depends on what registration you're talking about. If you mean register to come to the meeting, that's a different thing. Or if you mean register to vote, that's another thing.
Yeah.
So registering to vote, have a different line for those people because that'll take them a while to fill out the form. And there shouldn't be as many of those people. Okay, I think that's it, unless you want to talk about electronic voting right now.
Okay. Registering to vote.
Okay, so you know how to do your same day missionary military. You know about pre-registered attendees. You know how to do voter registration. I didn't really go over this thing right here.
Before you go away from the military missionary thing,
Okay.
are those the only people who are allowed to vote? I mean, if somebody is gone and got a short-term leave or something like that, but they're not missionaries or military, are they not allowed to vote?
They can use the absentee ballot.
But an absentee would require that they.
You know, that's a really good question, and that's something we could ask, because it seems like it should apply if the need is appropriate. So let me ask about that, and I'll see what I can find out. I don't know the answer right now, but I mean, right now I would say no, they can't.
People who are gone for a 3-month, 4-month
Mm-hmm.
leave, or they're working out of town on a job somewhere for a lengthy period of time.
Right, that makes sense. Okay, I will ask about that. Thank you. Okay, so these are the sign-in sheets for the people who don't pre-register, the people who just walk in. But you only get one of these in your packet. So you're going to need to make some copies or come up with your own sign-in sheet or something. But you get one of these in each of the packets. And I told them I wasn't happy about that, but they didn't care. So,
Where did you get these packets?
well, it depends on which ledge district you're in.
67 gets them tonight.
67 gets them tonight.
I will get them later this next week, in like Wednesday.
Okay, 55 gets them on Wednesday. 65 gets them on Wednesday. And other than that, I can't tell you. I know that all the ledge chairs picked up packets today from the State Central Committee meeting. So if you don't see yours in a couple of days, make a phone call.
Does that have a card behind it?
It does.
Do we
Yeah.
have a copy?
I don't think you need copies, because if you just have them fill in on one sheet, at the end of the caucus, when you're all done with everything, you can take pictures with your smartphone, or you can bring a copy machine to the school and copy everything. So I don't think you need them in triplicate. You can, and the carbon's not that great. That's true.
So this is for people who just come?
This is for people who just come without pre-registering.
That aren't Republican?
No. They have to be Republican.
For everyone who didn't pre-register on the computer.
Yeah. Everyone who didn't sign in on the computer signs this.
Okay.
Okay? And or a copy of this that you made.
I'm still confused about if you have to be pre-registered to vote or register to vote the night of, you don't have to be registered to vote at all.
No, you can just walk in and do this. And that's just fine.
The reason you pre-register is to save time, so there's no big line.
Yeah, it just gets you through the line faster, and it makes the line move faster if you've pre-registered, because then all I have to do, or whoever's at the desk, is...
They have to be a registered voter.
Oh yeah. In order for them to pre-register, they would have to be a registered voter already.
So the steps are you have to be you have to register.
A registered Republican, you would already have to be one.
Which you can do that night.
You can do it that night if you haven't already done it, but in order to register online, you have to already be one. Unless you sign up and then, I think right now we're too close. I think if you're not already a registered Republican, I think you need to walk in.
15 days before.
Yeah, that's theoretical. It depends on how slammed they get 15 days before, because sometimes they just won't show up.
So we're going to have a list, though, of all the voters that are registered in our precinct. Aren't they going to be checking off them and then signing, and then only those that are on those lists you write on that list? Is that right?
That's right. Those are the people that would sign on this list.
Yeah, those are just the ones that aren't already on your list.
Now, yeah, thank you for that clarification. So the people who sign this list are the people who didn't pre-register online, who are registered Republicans.
But who are not in your book, your 3-ring binder that you're getting from the...
Oh, no. Everybody. This is caucus attendees. We want to know who was there so that we can contact them, so we have a count for next time, so we can predict what's going to happen next year. So this is everybody who didn't pre-register. Did I say everything you said? Can you say it again?
Here. Okay.
She thinks if you have your list of registered voters, you can just put a check mark when they come in.
And they sign
and they don't have to be on there.
So they don't have to fill it again, because we already have all the information on our printout of all of our registered people right? I mean, like, I'll have
Okay.
a list of like
We don't have
100
an email
people,
address.
Yes,
right?
yes,
There's,
And so when they
on the
come-
registered voter list, there's an email address?
Yes, I put
I-
mine out, it folds out.
I think there is.
So when you come,
How
you
did they
can
get it?
just
I never
mark
gave them
this
one.
in here, right?
Yeah,
And
they don't have
then
any
if
email.
not, then they sign that and fill it in. Because otherwise that's so much work.
Okay,
Yeah.
you
For new
check
people.
your registered voter list. When you get your registered voter list, look at it and see if it has emails on it, because I'm pretty sure it doesn't.
does. It does.
It does.
Okay,
I'm pretty
if
sure.
you have all the information on the registered voter list, then that's great. If not, it's nice to have this so that we know how to contact people and keep them in the loop.
Our ledge district input that last caucus.
Yes.
And most ledge districts did that.
Okay, so what you're talking about is voter click, which is a different thing from registered voters. Registered voters is the list from the county. The county has their own registered voter list, and those are the lists that are going to be in front of you when you're checking people in that night. They don't have email addresses.
Okay.
The attendee lists that were input into the computer into VoterClick last time, those should have email addresses as long as the people gave them. So that's what the confusion is. Those do, the ones on VoterClick should have emails. The ones you get from the county are not going to have emails. Okay, so you do need these sign-in sheets. That's how we got the emails the last time. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, let's move on here because we've got a lot to cover and not a lot of time left. Okay, so you have set up your registration. I'm trying to think if I didn't cover anything here. Sign-in sheets. Okay, if I left anything out, ask a question at the end.
If they're not on the binder from the county, that means they're not registered Republican voters.
Thank you. Yes, I left that out.
That was an important one.
It was. Okay, so if somebody comes in and they say, I'm in this precinct, I'm registered, and they're not on the list, then what they need to do is go fill out a voter registration form, and then they can come back. It's not worth arguing about it or anything. Just say, you know what, I'm sorry, your name's not on here for some reason. So if you'll just fill out the voter registration form, then we'll turn that in for you and you'll be on it the next time. Does that answer?
No, actually, if they've registered to vote at caucus night, they are allowed to participate.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, yes. Not go next time, but they can have their little...
No, but it'll just be on the list.
Yes, it'll be on the list.
Yes, they can participate that night as soon as they filled out a Republican-affiliated voter registration form.
And their address is in your precinct.
What if they're a registered voter in your precinct, but they've actually moved, like some adult children have moved out, but they're still registered in that precinct?
I have one of those.
It's where they're registered, and the state is
Is
very
it?
flexible.
So
Okay.
They can still vote. They can still vote if they're registered there.
They can still come to your caucus. Okay. Thank you. I didn't know that. All right.
That happens like my kids that went to college. They would come home to vote.
I think if to college, yeah. But if they've gotten married and moved away, then they probably should change their voter registration. Okay, all right, moving along.
I have a question about that, though.
Okay.
Does the county ensure that those addresses, that they don't get to vote twice? So they have a...
sure, yeah.
No, they don't.
No.
Not at caucus, they
you
don't.
can't be registered at two addresses.
Married for like 4 years, and she had moved from the state of Utah to Massachusetts, and they still had her for like 2 or 3 voting cycles, and I was just like, this is my daughter, she's married.
Yeah, she left.
No, she had registered to vote in the state of Massachusetts. And
So both.
How do we know that?
And I went into the county clerk's office and I said, take my daughter's name off. And they said, we can't do that.
Ben, do you have an answer?
I can clarify that a little bit.
Okay, do you want to come up here?
Well, I'll just do it there.
Okay.
There's no communication from state to state on the voter rolls, okay? So that's why that circumstance happens. However, the county will leave voters on the voter rolls for, I can't remember, it's 3.
Something like that. 7? Is it 7?
3 or 4 election cycles, which makes it 6 to 8 years. And if they don't vote, then the county will drop it because they'd rather err on the side of leaving somebody there registered to vote who just forgot to do something and they're still registered in that precinct and that, than remove somebody and show up to vote on election day and they're not there registered to vote.
Right.
Yeah,
But I know recently they went through and cleaned out a bunch of people who hadn't voted for years and years. So that's what it was. We just don't have any cross communication between.
If on the county voter list are registered, unaffiliated, it comes to the precinct or comes to Caucus, they could become affiliated there if they want.
Yes.
Or they could be an observer unaffiliated.
That's right.
What paper do they sign in on again?
If they want to be affiliated or just observe, they could sign in. I guess they could sign in on the thing, but on the regular list here. But they just wouldn't be able to vote or speak, or the way you regulate that is with the wristbands or the name tags.
We record their name somewhere at the PND.
Sure. You could. I don't see. You wouldn't probably upload them to VoterFlip.
On that list there and say they're unaffiliated.
You could just say they're unaffiliated.
I think that's a good idea because you'd want their name if they live within your precinct. You want to be able to keep in contact with them.
I think that's a good idea. Yeah.
If they're unaffiliated and they want to participate, then they have to fill out a
Then they have to affiliate. Yeah, they have to become a Republican, which they can undo later if they want to undo it. They can go register. Well, they could register as a Democrat if they want, and then come and register as a Republican. They can just do it at the caucus, and whatever they decide to do after that is their business. Okay, so let's move along then. We're moving on to running the caucus. Now, in your packets, do you have a question, Sean?
No.
Okay.
We're making fun.
Of me? Okay.
Okay.
You can if you want. Okay, so the packets got put together yesterday, and were picked up by your ledge officers this afternoon at the State Central Committee meeting. Inside your packet, you will have the the Caucus Precinct Host Instructional Guide. This has a script in it, but I would recommend that you go through this and highlight what actually is supposed to be said, because it goes through a lot of the background information. That's part of the problem with trying to go through this just at boom, 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 what you do this, and then you do this, and then you do this, is there's so much background information that you need to have, and it's in the script thing here. So read through this and highlight what you want to say or write up your own script. Don't go to Caucus and pull this out and say, I'm going to read it.
No.
Because you'll be really surprised that a lot of this doesn't even apply to the right moment in the caucus. It's just information that helps you understand what you're doing there. So this is a great guide, but read it first. Don't think you can just kind of do it. Oops, that has to go back in the packet. Okay, also in your packet are the rules. This is a state party function. They set the rules and we follow the rules. The rules are not set by the county, they're not set by the precincts, they're set by the state. So make sure that you're familiar with the rules. The reason for that is that we want everything to be standardized throughout the state. One of the complaints that we've had about the caucus system is that different places do things different ways. And so we're trying really hard to make sure that everybody's following the same rules and that we're leveling the playing field so we don't have complaints or problems. So make sure you're familiar with the rules. I'm trying to decide if I need to go over any of these rules with you. Okay, let's just skip to the order of business right now. If we have questions about rules, we'll address those. So, okay, let's do, there's one more thing before my standard place. Okay, before we get to the actual order of business, when you come to your caucus, make sure that you have, and plan this ahead of time, go see the room that you're going to be in. You should have a flag, and you should have a whiteboard, markers, possibly a sound system, depending on how big your caucus is. If you only have 10 or 15 people, then I don't think you need a sound system, but typically our caucuses have close to 200, so definitely we need a sound system.
Is that on a list we're getting in our packet, or should we be scribbling?
This is on a list that I emailed out. It's called, the attachment that you got is Caucus Training Master. And I have a long list of things in there that you would want to consider having in your caucus. The one thing that I don't have on the list that we came up with the other night when we were doing some practice ballot counting is we realized sometimes there's a three-way tie. And so we're suggesting that you bring a die, and then you have them roll the die and decide who the winner or loser is that way. But Lowell will address that when he's talking about balloting. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I thought I had a sheet.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah,
there you go. Yeah, there's a long list on there of things that you might want to consider. Oh, I even wrote in my notes, see the caucus training master in your emails for more detail. Okay, you need to decide, the state party suggested that we have a Meet the Candidates hour from 6 to 7. Whether you can do that or not is going to depend a lot on your school availability, how early you can get into the school, but that's up to each precinct to decide that. If you'd like to have one, then check with your ledge district leaders and see if the school is available early enough for you to do that. I think it's a great idea for people to come and meet the candidates and get to know more about them than just the 1 minute or 30 seconds that they're going to hear once the meeting starts. Yes?
Are we allowed to give other people time to speak that aren't candidates? Because I am a precinct chair in Alpine, and Senator Lee is my precinct, and he spoke for quite a time 2 years ago. He got up, he spoke, and gave his opinions, and I just want to know, because I'm sure he's going to come again. That's
okay. So what I would suggest is that I think that's something that maybe it should be a decision of the body, shouldn't it?
Yeah, do it during the vote counting or something.
Yeah, and then if they're going to speak, don't have it be at the beginning of your meeting. Have it while the votes are being counted, or if you have people like in Alpine, you might have a backlog of people who are trying to sign in and aren't in there yet. And if you've already gone through the welcome, the prayer, the pledge, and reading of the platform, and now you're ready to make nominations, maybe that would be a time to have somebody, and just limit them. Have a timekeeper and say you have 3 minutes, or however you want to do that. But just make sure you have parameters, because you don't want them pushing your caucus later in the night. So you can set the rules as a precinct on that, what you want to do during lag times.
Might also invite them to speak afterward for people who want to stay after and hear them speak, but they would like to.
Right, and that's a good idea. You can have them speak just 1 second and I'll get your question. But probably the best time to do something like that would be during the counting or during a time when you've got people standing in line or something. Go ahead.
Is the intent of Meet the Candidates for people who are pre-declared that they're interested in being?
Anybody could be at the Meet the Candidates night. So if you plan on just being nominated from the floor, then be at the Meet the Caucus hour, or Meet the Candidates hour, whatever you want it. Be at the Caucus Meet the Candidates hour.
But I understood that when everybody comes, then people start nominating people the night of.
Okay,
yeah.
That's fine to do that.
So you have the 6 to 7 Meet the Candidates when there's 13 people who come at 7 o'clock whose friends then nominate them that weren't.
And that's fine.
Okay.
That will probably happen, and it's fine. It's fine. It just means that the people who were at the earlier hour have more exposure. They're able to meet more people. Maybe they'll get more votes. Yes.
I'm just checking. In our ledge district, I see 12 different locations from the school. How can candidates get around from those?
Okay, these candidates, the candidates we're talking about right now are people who are running for precinct chair, vice chair, and delegate seats. So it would just be those candidates. Other candidates can bring flyers, but no, they can't get around to all those locations. That would be, and they should be in their own caucuses. One more, and then
we're having an open house prior to invite people who want to self-select or want to learn what it means to be a precinct officer, so you don't get nominated for
Shauna.
The other thing that you might want to come with, as far as delegates, the ones that served last time, you want to come with their record of attendance. Honestly, because
can you get the records of delegate attendance?
Yes, you can. To vote
okay. You're sure it's not just precinct chairs and vice chairs?
It's just precinct chairs.
I think it's just chairs and vice chairs.
Well, it was state delegates.
All delegates that signed in and got a tag, they are making available.
Also delegates?
Yes.
Okay, where do we go to get that, Ben? Do you know?
Kirby.
Okay.
Go to the Utah
To
County
voter
page, and at the top, the banner changes every so often. It says party, your neighborhood caucus or whatever. Click on that one. It's the very first one that comes up. And there's a separate hyperlink for get the attendance of your delegates on it. And
Okay.
go in and
So did everyone hear that? Okay, so go to the party website, it's ucrp.org, right? Okay, so go to ucrp.org, and there's a banner that says Neighborhood Caucus. Click on that, and then there's a place where you can get attendance records. And that's a good idea, because if you had people who were elected who never went, you may want to not vote for them again.
Go ahead and post them. And
yeah, you can do that.
Because when I went on and looked, I noticed that they're either really high or really low.
Interesting.
Hypothetically, there's like almost nobody in the middle. It's like either they go to everything or just about everything, or they just don't go to anything.
Well,
okay, good to know.
It's only has two things they're supposed to come to, right?
The two conventions.
Right, but
yes,
they
two
come to all
conventions.
the other meetings.
Okay, let's move on. When you get into the caucus, you're going to, you're gonna bring with you, when you come into the caucus, you're gonna bring the same day missionary military. Okay, bring this box in with you. Presumably by the time the caucus starts, this will be finished. Hopefully. And when you get into the caucus, one of the first things that you're going to do, I guess you could do the welcome prayer and pledge first, but then you're going to take the envelopes out of here one at a time, and you're going to say, Tamara Atkin cast an absentee ballot. You're going to say that aloud in front of everyone. The reason for that is that way, if Tamara shows up at the caucus, everybody's going to go, she cast an absentee ballot. What is she doing here? Okay, so you're going to read it, the names aloud, and then you're going to take the ballot out, and you're not going to look at it because it's supposed to be at least semi-private, right? So, I mean, it's supposed to be private, but anyway, you're going to take it out, and you're going to just drop it in the ballot box, and then you can put this in, I have a thing for spoiled ballots. Is it in here? Oh, it's right here. Okay, so I have this Ziploc, and if there are any spoiled ballots, exhausted ballots, anything that there could be a question about later, put it in here and just hang on to it, okay? So you're going to toss the ballot into the box where all of the ballots are going to go, and nobody's going to look at it again until we're counting ballots, so that we don't know that that was Tamara's ballot. Now, if she happens to be in the caucus, then we have to ask some questions. But that's the reason for that is the safeguard. Okay, so welcome prayer pledge, same day ballots. You don't have to do that with the missionary military ballots probably, because the likelihood is you've already verified that they're out of the country for whatever reason, or out of the state for whatever reason. If you feel like there's a question, then you can go ahead and double check those too. Okay, then you get to the reading of the county platform, and most of the packets got county platforms. I know somebody took off with a couple of packets this morning that hadn't had county platforms put in it. You're supposed to read the platform. What I would recommend is some people put it up on a projector, and that makes it a little more interesting. Or another option is to give everybody a copy and then, what was that?
Nothing.
Was there a question? Okay. And then just have people read a section a piece or something. Just go around the room and let everybody read a section. That way it keeps them on.
Get somebody who knows how to read well.
Okay, or get somebody who knows how to read well. Somebody with a really interesting storytelling voice. That's great. Yes?
Just want to spring to make enough copies that everybody's there to read it themselves and just pass it out.
Yeah.
And skip the oral reading. Is that okay?
I think you're supposed to read it
Yeah,
aloud.
you're supposed to.
You're supposed to read it out.
Yeah. Sorry. It was a nice thought, though.
When you take a motion to waive the rules,
No, can't do that. No, the rules are set by the state, so we don't do that. Yes.
Kristen, you said county platform, you can read party platform.
You can read either the state or the county platform, but our county put the county platform in the packets. The state platform is actually included in, let's see, I think it's included in this precinct host instructional guide. So if you prefer to read the state platform, you can do that.
Which is shorter?
Well, county?
County shorter.
County shorter. There you go. Not that we would make our decisions based on that. Okay, yes.
Our county platform is better than the state platform. It's
Okay.
it's for free.
So ours is better. Read ours. Thanks, Julie.
Yeah.
Okay, so then after you read the platform, you're going to review the rules and procedures and duties of officers and delegates, and this should be also in your, that's in here. This list of things to do is in your packet. Okay, so you don't have to write all this down. You're going to review rules and procedures and duties of officers and delegates. So there is actually in your packet, there's a list of the duties of county delegates and state delegates, and you should do that and also go over the duties of precinct chairs, vice chairs, etc. before you have nominations, so that people are not getting nominated for something that they really didn't want to do.
Is the date on there for conventions that you can read aloud too? So
I made a calendar, and it's in the packets.
April 12th.
Right? Yeah.
County April 12th, states April 26th.
So you should probably write that in there, so the people.
That should be, yes, that you could write that on the board if you wanted to. This will be in your packet. This has, it starts with caucus night, and then it has uploading of caucus attendee and new officer and delegate information, trainings for new officers and delegates. All the Meet the Candidates nights throughout the county are listed on here. Now this won't be in your packet if you're not in Utah County, just so you know. And then April 12th is the county convention. And the state convention is April 26th. May 27th is the voter registration deadline. Anyway, I've got early voting deadlines, voter registration deadlines are all on there. So each precinct has one copy of that, but you'll want to make a copy of that for each delegate and for each new precinct officer, and have those ready to give them that night. I don't know, Tamara, do you know how many they put in the package? Okay, so precinct chair, vice chair, and...
There's supposed to be enough for each county delegate, but they only put 3.
Yeah, they told us we could only put 3 of any one thing in the packets.
But you know, it's really important for anybody who's being nominated to know what those dates are, also to know whether...
Oh yeah, that's why you're going to write them on a whiteboard.
Got it.
You're going to write them on your whiteboard and say, these are the dates that you must be available if you're going to run for these seats. And if they can't be available those dates, then they shouldn't be running. Okay. Duties of officers and delegates, and then you start with nominations. Lowell, should we just go ahead and go through the procedure? Do you want to do that? We don't have a whiteboard, do we?
Now here?
Yeah.
I think that on the elections, we'll just walk through the exercise, the packet.
Okay.
And so
and then do the practice after? Is that what you're saying?
And then do the practice right after we talk about the process. So go ahead and do what you would like to do, and then we'll maybe finish up with the elections. That'd be okay?
Okay, just go through the rest of the caucus?
So.
Okay, we can do that. Okay, so at this point, you would have your nominations for precinct chair. And it says in your packet the order in which you're supposed to do the nominations. So you would do precinct chair and have the vote on that and the results on that. And then vice chair and secretary. Some people combine secretary and treasurer. So secretary treasurer or secretary/treasurer, either way. And then you do your state delegates and then your county delegates. And then you're supposed to ask for people who would like to be election judges. So you can circulate a paper or something for them to write down their contact information, and then you can either give that to your ledge officers, or you can take it directly to the county elections office and give that to them. Because we're all supposed to recruit election judges. And election judges, in case anyone doesn't know what those are the people, you know, when you go in to vote at the primary, those are the people who are sitting at the table. That take your information and they double check to make sure your ID is right. This is for the primary and general election. We're not talking about caucus night when we're talking about election judges. Go ahead.
I don't think we've had a treasurer in our precinct. Is there a responsibility there, or is there work for them to do?
Well, they're supposed to be. There frequently isn't. Donations, yeah, and they do take care of the donations on caucus night, right?
Yeah, there's an envelope from the state.
Yes, and that's this envelope right here. Oh, I didn't even say this. I'm sorry. This, the donation envelope, and I guess I didn't put that in my notes. This should be circulated near the beginning of the caucus. And people can sign, if they want to make a pledge, there's a place to make a pledge on here. Or you can just put money in. If you put in $50 or more, then it has to be recorded. And so you need to write down that who you are and that you've done $50. If you just put in cash and it's not $50, you don't have to say anything. And then also, do you have a comment? Also, if you have bought supplies for your caucus, you could actually write down that it's a donation in kind on here. You could say, I spent this much on supplies for caucus and I'm donating that to the party.
Do you put the receipts in there if you have them?
No. No, you don't need to. You can
And
just
if
say,
you'd rather not put your name on the outside, you can just put a piece of paper inside that's on
right. If you don't want to put your name on the outside of the envelope, you can just put, and you've donated $50 or more, you can put a note inside, or you can put your name on it if you didn't donate $50. But if you did, you should put your name. Okay, was there a question?
There's just one point on election judges.
Okay.
It is something of an oxymoron because they say ask volunteers. Election judges are paid.
Yeah, but they're paid $50 to sit there for 11 hours, right? That's almost like not being paid. Okay, so did you all hear that?
Yes.
They get paid $50 and there's training that they need to attend to be an election judge. Okay, at the end of the caucus, and if you have questions, make sure you're making a note of the questions. And if you notice anything I've missed, make sure you bring it up. At the end of the caucus, you need to make sure that you have all the information on your newly elected officers and delegates. There are sheets that they're supposed to fill out. I did not see those in the packets. Did anyone see those in the packets? The sheets for the new delegate and officer? I'll have to look through the whole packet. I was stuffing packets yesterday and I don't remember seeing them. So, okay, so there's this form that somehow we'll have to get to you if it's not in the packets. That has the place for a chair, vice chair, secretary, treasurer, and then elected county delegates, elected state delegates. We really, really need to have contact information for these people because they have responsibilities, and if we can't get information to them, or if the candidates can't reach them, then it's useless. They might as well not have run. So make sure they write legibly so that the people who have to upload the information can read it and not have to kill themselves trying to figure out all the scribbles. And that all of the information, including an email, is on there. Did you have a question?
The packets will tell us how many delegates were allowed to vote.
The packets will not tell you that. You will get that information, but...
It's on the county party website. Yeah.
Is that the final
I think so.
information? Because I think we just got that information from the state 2 days ago.
Oh.
Right, okay.
Something is on there, but I guess
Okay,
it's not
thank you, Tamara. Okay, so on Thursday we have an executive committee meeting where we will be approving the delegate allocation, and then you'll get that right after that. You do have it there?
Yeah.
For everybody?
No, I just printed a copy for myself.
Oh, okay. No, I mean, you have the delegate allocation for everyone.
Yeah.
Okay. That is going to be approved. So if you want to look at her copy afterwards, then you can get an idea of what.
So when you say we'll get that, will that come in an email?
Does it usually come in an email?
How do we get it?
Lowell, do you know? Is it?
It usually comes on.
No, it usually comes in the packet. That's.
She said it's not.
But it's not in the packet. So it probably will be an email. I'm guessing it'll be an email. Lowell, can you come here for a second and explain how they decide how many delegates each?
So instead if they don't get an email if there's delegate allocation, have contact the legislature chair, because they will definitely have that allocation.
Okay, so if you don't see your email, or your allocation in by email, probably by Friday, contact your ledge chairs, and they should have that. Okay, I'm going to have Lowell explain the delegate allocation.
This is called the Republican strength formula, or called relative Republican strength. It's based on the number of votes cast for the 4 statewide offices: governor, attorney general, auditor, and treasurer, with contested races. The number of votes cast for those 4 in your precinct are all totaled up. So you might have 300 in this precinct, 400 in that one. And then when the delegates are allocated, here in the Utah County, county delegates are allocated 500 votes equals 1 delegate, right? So, and that's in our county party bylaws. So if there were 4,000 votes cast in your precinct, then you would get 8 delegates in your 8 delegate seats at the convention.
Those are Republican votes.
Thank you.
Right.
Republican.
Republican.
Thank you.
Yes.
Right. So those are contested races. So the votes for the Republican candidate in those contested races. If you get 1,000 votes in your precinct for those 4 contested races aggregated together, then you get 2 county delegate seats in your precinct. On state delegate allocation, it's a little bit different because there's a finite number of state delegate seats that are allocated, 4,000 to be precise. See, the number of county delegates increases year after year, cycle after cycle, because we continue to grow in population in Utah County. But the number is set, it's limited, it's finite on the state level. So those 4,000 delegate seats are allocated according to this relative Republican strength, and it's all based on the number of votes cast for those 4 contested races.
So when you said like 1,000, is that like 1,000 votes for each office or for all 4 offices?
All 4. So 250 for the governor, 250 for the AG, 250.
And in the past, I've been told they were decided by your attendance at caucus, but that has nothing to do with it. Right?
Caucus attendance has 0 influence on the number of delegate seats.
That's a really good reason to get the vote out, because people say it doesn't matter. It won't make any difference if I vote.
It really does matter, and in fact, I look at the delegate allocations every year, or every 2 years, every cycle, and it's very interesting to see the delegates, how they move around the state. Salt Lake County has been losing delegates. Utah County has been growing delegates. Very interesting shift. It's an interesting dynamic, and it also occurs at the county level. Populace, if you're growing a lot in your area, then you'll get another seat. You probably. It just ebbs and flows.
How many state delegates?
4,000 state delegates allocated among some 2,000 precincts. There's roughly 2,000 precincts in the state. So 4,000 state delegate seats are allocated.
I remember in our caucus 2 years ago, the person who was nominated as the chair also became the 3rd state delegate. Is that how you did it in yours?
In Utah County, yes, in Utah County, the precinct chair automatically gets a seat to the state convention and to the county convention, and the vice chair automatically gets a seat to the county convention.
Okay.
It's not that way throughout the state. It just happens to be a Utah County thing. And let me just add, the person who is elected chair or vice chair may choose to relinquish that seat For example, if I win chair, but I know that I'm out of town on the 26th, I may say I cannot attend the state convention, so I'll relinquish my seat to the state convention and let the precinct fill that seat. I won't take it. Okay, sorry.
Perfect, that was the answer.
Oh, okay.
There's the question. Okay, so you need to gather the information from your delegates and your new precinct leaders, and then you also need to give them information. And as I was telling you in your packets, there are calendars, and I like to do everything on bright stuff, but the one in your packet is just on white. So this is when I was the Ledge Chair up in Ledge District 27, I had meet the candidate night flyers to let them know where they could meet the candidates and where they could be trained. I held a training the same night as the meet the candidate event. Actually, it was a morning, it was a Saturday morning. And then this is the calendar that I had there, and they need these on caucus night. They need to have all this information. Okay, this is just another debate flyer that we put in. I like to do it, obviously, you've got those orange papers. You can tell I like to. Just make sure that they have all the information they need and you have all the information you need before they take off, because you don't want them to leave and then leave.
That one paper that you're saying wasn't included in ours, in the registration from the last caucus, there's a checkbox so you can say this person was voted state delegate, this person was voted.
Oh yeah, and it is on there.
If that, it's still on the openings where you're registering. And
it's still where?
On that triplicate form that you said you only got one.
Oh.
There's boxes right in the front that you can say they are precinct chair.
You're right. You're right. There's a little gray thing over here. I'd forgotten about that. So you could use that. You could get a copy of this just to use for that if you wanted to.
And then, I don't know, maybe we were wrong to do it. In our caucus, we decided as a body that our vice chair would be a state and county delegate as well. They were looking like to make a shorter meeting, I think, and so they said, okay, chair and vice chair can do both of those.
Yeah, you should. That was wrong to do that. Now you know. Well, what happens though is you're elected as the vice chair, and then you have to run as a state delegate. You can't say that they're just.
For just your caucus, like
everybody approved it.
No, you can't. That's what they say over and over again in the rules, is you have to do it our way. Ben?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry. The form that the county uses for the list, those elected officers and precincts, there's a place on there for the caucus folks that they have to certify those officers that they're elected, those names and that.
Are you talking about this list right here?
I think that's why we need to use that one. You can't necessarily.
So do you know where I don't think they're in the packets.
Okay. I don't know.
Okay, so we need to talk about that. Okay, we'll figure that out and get back to you on that. They should have been in the packet. Okay, so what have I not heard here? Well, have you noticed anything I missed? Ben, have you noticed anything I missed? Tamara?
No.
Right.
Should you discuss making a request for money?
Yes, you're great. You just keep giving me all these prompts. Okay, so when you pass around your envelope, obviously ask people to donate. The money goes to help our Republican candidates. And some people don't want to donate to the party, they want to donate to particular candidates, and that's just fine too. But on the money envelope, and tell me if I don't get to the answer you want, but on the money envelope, after it's filled, after the caucus is over, 2 people from your precinct, the treasurer and one other person, need to count the money. One of them can count, the other one can watch, or they can both count it or whatever. Then it goes in the envelope, you seal the envelope, and they sign across the seal. And this brings me to another thing that I forgot to mention, pictures. If you have a smartphone, or if you want to bring copy machines, in our Ledge District we had a copy machine in every lobby of the school, but I think this year with smartphones it's probably a lot easier just to use the phones. Anyway, take a picture front and back of your envelope, make sure that you've written the precinct, Down here, there's a place to write precinct, ledge district, how much in checks, how much in cash, and then the total. You might even want to fill that in before you get to the caucus so you don't forget. And then this and all of the paperwork, you want to take pictures of these too so that you have this in your hand. And then these go to the ledge district. So the money envelopes, the newly elected delegate forms, the caucus attendee forms, all of that stuff, and any voter registration paperwork. Whoa, I'll stand over there. Any voter registration paperwork, any of the paperwork goes to your ledge officers. And, yes, Ben?
Who keeps the ballots?
Who keeps the
ballots?
The ballots? How did you do it? I just had the precinct chairs keep them.
Yeah, we threw them away.
I would recommend keeping them. Yeah, oh, thank you. That was my prompt. Sorry. I missed it. Okay, so you should keep your ballots. I mentioned the spoiled ballots, but you should also keep the other ballots.
Are you going to the ones we put 1 to 3.5?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just go ahead and keep all the ballots, because then if anybody contests the race or there's any kind of issue or problem, you can just pull the ballots out and say, here they are. You can go through them and see exactly what happened.
Will there be a sample of the ballot in our packet, or do we need to make those up? Or
you saw them?
There are some.
Oh, you know, there was a stack of stuff that I didn't go through that I just kind of put it in.
And then the other question was, it seems like after last caucus, somebody was saying their lady put in a lot of information in the computer. Was that the legislative district, or was that the precinct?
It probably was the legislative district. What we would prefer is that the precinct officers actually put that information in. It's a lot of work for the precinct, or for the ledge district to do it for the whole
Does it have to be done that way?
It does, because the candidates need that information, and we only have 3 weeks, is that right? 3 weeks between the caucus and the convention. So they have to contact all of those delegates in that short window. So we really need to make sure all the information is put up that night.
So do we check with our legislative chair to see if they want us to help them? Or?
That would be a great idea, yeah.
So we put the contact information of the people who are voted into the website.
Yeah, into VoterClick.
For a ballot.
Okay, you know what, I just found it. This is a tally sheet.
Oh.
So this is in your packet. This is the tally sheet. And Lowell's going to talk about this. We need to hurry and get to what Lowell has, because his is pretty exciting.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, there's all kinds of stuff in here, and you guys can go through it. And
Will you restate what you're supposed to get to your ledge?
okay, your money envelopes, any voter registration forms, and all of the information for your newly elected leaders.
Contact information.
Contact information, yes. Thank you. Go ahead, Bob.
Do ballots need to be kept? Is there a time limit for challenges?
I don't know. I've kept them for a year. How long do you keep them, Ben?
Oh my gosh.
Not that long.
6 months? 3 months?
Yeah.
I don't know. Just long enough that you know that everybody is settled and they're not going to contest. I doubt it. We need some more bylaws.
Okay, your turn, your turn.
Okay, you do know that I used to be the vice chair of the Constitutional Bylaws Committee, right? Okay.
Because I understand you want us to submit the donation information, officer delegate information by photo.
Well, you know, you're going to give the hard copies to the ledge district. The photos are for you. So that you have that information, because then you don't have to wait to contact people until somebody gets done doing something and gives it back to you. Because I've always hated that. So, okay. Yes. Are we good?
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Lowell is going to go over balloting.
I'm sorry. Will you clarify when you said if you that you have set aside for the chair and the vice chair that they can also be delegates, but then I also heard you say that they have to also run as a delegate.
Okay, so the precinct chair is automatically a state delegate and a county delegate in Utah County. It depends on what county you're in. But in Utah County, precinct chair, state and county delegate. The vice chair is automatically a county delegate. If they don't want to be either one of those things, they can, after they're elected, they can say, I don't, or even before, they can say, they can run and say, I just want to be the precinct chair because I can't attend the conventions, and I will put my delegate seats back into the pool to be elected, to have other people elected to those seats.
Can the vice chair also run for a state, to be a state delegate?
Yes, but from the, yes, or they could even, they could say I'm running for vice chair and I'm running for a state delegate. They can file that way, pre-file. You just can't attach it. You can't vote to say we want our vice chair to also be a state delegate. That doesn't work. They have to take one of your state delegate seats and take it the same way anybody else does. Okay.
I've given you a handout. Everyone should not leave here without this handout. This is half of my gift to you. I also have a packet of cards, a deck of cards for each one of you. This deck of cards has 16 cards in it, and we'll be playing with these a little bit later. There is nothing like practice to build confidence in yourself, in your abilities to count votes. And so we're just going to briefly review multiple round voting and preferential voting, and then we're going to break out the cards and play some cards. It'll be fun. The Utah Republican Party Constitution provides two methods for voting. One is multiple round voting and one is preferential voting. Most caucuses in the past 10, 20 years, as far as I know, have used multiple round voting. You have to get a majority to win the seat, and very few have used preferential voting. The two are similar. The two are very much similar. They're almost identical. It's just that on a preferential ballot, the voter ranks the candidates in order of preference, and then that ballot is used by the counters as though the voters had cast multiple rounds of ballots. Okay, so and so we'll see that. I've tried to outline this on the very first page. So let's look at the first page. Second paragraph. Their multiple round voting takes more time. Preferential voting takes less time. Multiple round voting, voters can change their preference in between rounds, whereas on a preferential ballot, once you express your preferences, you're done. You can't change your preference in between rounds because there's only really one round in a preferential vote. So, to demonstrate the similarity between multiple round and preferential voting, let's look at this multiple round balloting examples. Assume you have 8 voters and they cast their ballots for among 3 candidates as shown here. Voters 1, 2, 4 voted for candidate A. Voters 3, 5, and 7 voted for candidate B. And voters 6 and 8 voted for C. And that's summarized in the spreadsheet on the right there, where we see A, B, C are the 3 candidates, and the votes they received is 3, 3, and 2. Okay, so that's the first round of a multiple round voting, right? The 8 voters cast their ballots. The counters tallied those ballots and wrote the results in the spreadsheet. They added them up, came up with 8. Therefore, they know a majority is 5, right? Because a majority is the integer higher than half. I want to emphasize this point. Majority is not 50% plus 1 all of the time. In fact, half the time that formula is wrong. If you have 11 voters, half of 11 is 5.5. One more than 5.5 is 6.5, but 6 is a majority, not 6.5. Okay? So it's the integer greater than half. If you have 10 votes cast, half of 10 is 5. 1 greater than 5 is 6. 6 is the majority of 10. When 11 votes are cast, half of 11 is 5.5. The integer greater than 5.5 is 6, and 6 is the majority of 11. Okay? Okay, so we see that after the first round, no candidate has a majority. No candidate has 5 votes. So we eliminate the lowest vote-getting candidate. In this case, that's candidate C. And so you would go to the whiteboard and scratch a line through candidate C, and then you would pass out the ballots to your caucus, and they would vote. They would cast a second ballot, the second round ballot. And on that ballot, I've noted here, all of the voters voted the same way except voters 6 and 8. Voter 6 said, well, because C's not in the race anymore, I'm going to vote for candidate A. And 8, he left the caucus because he thought it was too long, and so he did not vote. Then you gather up those ballots, and you sort them out into stacks, into a stack for each candidate. You have 2 stacks, one for A, one for B. You count them up, and lo and behold, you have 4 votes for A and 3 votes for B, and A wins the seat, or he wins the race. Now, let's look at that very same election using a preferential ballot. It's different for the voter because the voter expresses his first preference and a second preference, his first choice and a second choice on his ballot. As you can see, the first choice corresponds to the first round of a multiple round ballot. And the second choice on this preferential ballot corresponds to the second round of the multiple round ballot. So, the voters have expressed their preference and they cast their ballots. You gather them up and then you take the next step. And we have a question, please.
So the guy that left the room didn't have a second choice.
That's right.
But he cast this before he left the room.
That's right. In the multiple round vote, he left before the second round was cast. In a preferential ballot, he would be there, but in this case, he chose not to express a secondary preference. Okay, so you gather up the ballots, the preferential ballots, and you sort them into 3 piles, 1 stack for each candidate, according to the highest preference on that ballot. And as you can see here, we have 3 for A, 3 for B, and 2 for C. You eliminate C because there's no majority, and C has the fewest number of votes, and you take the 2 ballots in C's stack, and you look at the next highest preference on those ballots. Well, the only 2 ballots in his stack came from the voter 6 and voter 8. The secondary preference from voter 6 is A, and so you move his ballot over to the stack for candidate A. The ballot cast by voter 8 is exhausted because he didn't express a secondary preference. And then you total up you add up the votes in each stack. You have 4 for A, 3 for B, 1 exhausted ballot, and A is the winner. Okay, notice that the preferential ballot, you didn't have to go to the voter again to distribute ballots and collect ballots again. So you save time. It's roughly, twice as fast as a multiple round. So there you have the advantage of preferential balloting. It's especially helpful in filling multiple seats, such as your county delegate seats or your state delegate seats. Because there, you're going to use the very same ballots over again to fill the second seat, to fill the third seat, to fill the fourth seat. And why ask your voters to go through that same process over and over and over and over when you already can obtain their preferences on their ballot that they cast just one time. Okay, now it's time for some fun. We're going to play some cards here. Oh yes, questions first.
Trying to do multiple round voting for candidates for the offices and preferential voting. Is there any rule that says you can't do that?
There is.
Can you choose to do part of it?
Oh, you can choose multiple round for your officers and preferential for your delegates, yes.
Okay.
Please.
Is there a limit to the number of candidates for each office, or would that just be determined by moving to end the nominations?
The question is, there's a limit to the number of candidates? The answer is no. You take nominations until they run out.
So there's
You can self.
Yeah, vote within the nomination.
No, you don't close nominations until all nominations have been made. You can self-nominate. Other people can nominate you, whatever. You don't require a second. If you want to run, you just say so, and you self-nominate yourself.
Can you nominate someone that's not there?
You can, but usually you make an agreement with them beforehand and nominate them even though they're not there. But if they don't know about it, you might be doing the precinct a disservice because maybe they can't serve. And it's at that caucus when those dates are made clear. The 12th of April, got to attend that convention. The 26th of April, got to attend that one, and so forth.
Please. Nominations by motion.
You just take whatever nominations. You don't have to do it by motion. No. No second is required. No second is required for a motion. No, you just accept nominations until there's no more, please.
Okay, hypothetically speaking here, if you have an individual who knows they're going to be working that night, they go in and they sign up and say, I'm committed and I want to run, and they get on the ballot, they don't have to be there that night to be elected.
No. They can be elected in absentia, and if they want to run, you can run and not show up, that's fine.
Can you have somebody speak in their behalf?
Yes, you may have someone speak in their behalf. Ben?
It's the caucus host that determines when the nominations are held, whether that's your precinct chair or somebody else that's actually hosting the caucus that night. And the state parties emphasize that. Please make sure that all nominations have come forward from the floor or anyplace else they need to be before the caucus host closes the nominations.
Thank you. Yes. You cannot close nominations until all nominations have been made. Please.
Any regulation or whatever on nominating people who are unaware they're being nominated? They're out.
We've sort of talked about that. If it might be a disservice to the caucus.
Yeah.
If you nominate somebody who's not there, that doesn't know anything about it, because they probably won't be able to serve. However, if this gentleman explained, if he wants to run, but he knows he cannot attend that night because of shift duty or something, then someone else can go and nominate that person, and he can run. Please.
Can you give a written presentation?
Yes. You bet.
Who's making the actual decision between multiple rounds of preferential balloting?
That's a great question. That's a great question. Who decides or need to be prepared to run either one? I think. If you are not prepared to run preferential voting, don't try it. But it's going to save you a lot of time in the long run. And if your caucus wants to do it, then you need to be prepared. And that's one of the reasons why I prepared these packets, so that we can practice. We're going to practice tonight right here. I'm going to ask the second and the fourth rows to stand up and move their chairs out of the way. And we're going to bring 6 tables, 2 tables on each of our 3 rows. And I'm going to hand you these practice packets, and you are going to count a preferential voting situation here. We're going to walk through it. Okay, we're here tonight to count the ballots cast in a race involving 5 candidates using preferential ballots. So the first thing we do is create a stack for each of the candidates, and you'll notice that I put a little yellow sticky up here for each candidate. And now I'm going to look at the highest preference on the ballot. This voter, his first preference is for candidate A, this one for B, and so forth. I will just move my hands a little slowly so you can see where these are going, but the highest preference on the ballot is at the top. And according to that highest preference, I am separating the ballots into 5 stacks. 1 stack for each candidate. There. We have separated all of the ballots, and now we count the ballots in each stack. And so we count 5 ballots for candidate A. And now here on my tally sheet, I'm going to put 5 votes cast for candidate A. And then I count the ballots cast for candidate B. I count 4. For C, I count 1. For D, I count 3. And of course, I have someone watching me as I count to make sure that I count correctly. And I have someone watching whoever's doing the tally to make sure I write the correct numbers. In this case, I see that there are 5, 9, 10, 13, 16 ballots were cast, 16 total votes, and so I write that at the bottom. The majority is the integer greater than half. Half of 16 is 8, and the integer greater than 8 is 9. No candidate received 9 votes, so we're going to eliminate the candidate with the lowest or the fewest votes. In this case, that's candidate C. So we look at the ballot cast for candidate C, and we're going to give that ballot to the next highest preference on the ballot. In this case, that's D, as in David. So we move that vote over to candidate for the pile for candidate D. This voter, his first preference was C, his second preference was D. And so now we have 0 additional votes for A, B, and E, and 1 additional vote for candidate D. So on our tally sheet, we mark 1 additional vote for D. The other candidates did not receive any additional votes, and so we just bring their numbers forward. That totals to 16 votes. Majority remains 9, and we don't have any candidate with 9 votes yet. We see, however, that candidate E has the fewest votes, so we decide we have to eliminate E and distribute votes for E among candidates A, B, and D. Okay, so here are the votes for E, and one at a time, we look at the next highest preference, B. Next highest preference for this voter was B. Next highest preference for this voter was D. So, go back to our tally sheet. 0 additional votes for A. 2 additional votes for B. And 1 additional vote for D. And now, the total number of votes remains at 16. The majority remains at 9. No candidate received a majority, but we have a tie. We need to eliminate A or D. And so at this point, we'll flip a coin, and we'll assume A wins the toss, and we have to eliminate voter or candidate D. That means we allocate the ballots for D among the remaining 2 candidates, A and B. So we do that one at a time. Next highest preference on that ballot is A. For this ballot, it's A. This ballot, A. Now for this ballot, C is gone, D is gone, but the next highest preference remained in the race, and that's B. This ballot, E is gone, D is gone, C is gone. No additional preferences have been expressed, and so this is what we call an exhausted ballot. So we write the exhausted ballot in our tally sheet, and then we count the additional votes for A. 1, 2, 3. Add that to 5 and get 8. 1 additional vote for candidate B makes it 7. That's 15 votes. Majority of 15 is 8, because half of 15 is 7.5, and the integer greater than 8, that 7.5 is 8. And we have a winner because candidate A received 8 votes. And so A wins the first seat of that election. If we do a second seat, then we start all over again using the very same ballots to fill the second seat. So I'll move about twice as fast this time to do that, but we put all of the ballots back in their respective piles for each of the candidates. Okay, there's 5 votes for A. There's the 6 votes. Whoops, we got to do this right. We have to start all over, basically. Okay, now we're back to square one. Now, in the second seat, we treat the winner, A, as though he had been eliminated. So in this scenario here, we just have 4 candidates, B, C, D, and E. And we distribute the ballots for A according to the next highest preference. So here's a C, this one C, this voter expressed a secondary preference for C, and this one's for C, and this one for D. So in the first round then, we have 4 votes for B. We have 1 plus 1, 2, 3, 4, for a total of 5 votes for C, 1 additional for D, and E stays, or has 3 votes initially there. Okay, so we eliminate candidate E. Oh, hang on, we need to get a total. There's 9 plus 4 is 13 plus 3 is 16. Majority is 9, no candidate gets 9, so we eliminate E. The first vote goes to B. The next highest preference goes to B. The next highest preference here goes to D. So 2 additional votes for B brings 4 up to 6. C stays at 5. And D gets 1 additional vote, brings his total to 5. We have a tie between C and D, and so we flip a coin, and it comes up. Let's pretend that C wins the toss, and D is going to be eliminated. So we eliminate D. I'm sorry, who won the toss? Oh, C is eliminated because D won the toss. So we take the ballots for C. Next highest preference is D. Here is an exhausted ballot because A and C are both eliminated. A and C are eliminated, but D is still in. A, C, and E are all eliminated, so this ballot is exhausted. The next highest preference on this ballot is D, as in David. So we have no more additional ballots for B, so he stays at 6. 3 additional ballots for D. For 8 votes for D is in David. That's a total of 14 votes. A new majority is 8. 2 exhausted ballots. And D then becomes the winner of the second seat. That is the end of our demonstration. Hope it helped. Thank you very much. Okay, if you were going to fill another seat, you would follow the very same procedure using the very same ballots, treating the winners as though they had been eliminated. So you can fill a 3rd seat and then a 4th seat in this very same way. You just start all over, separating the ballots into the various stacks for each of the candidates, and then the winning candidates, the candidates who won the previous seats, we take the ballots in their stack, distribute them among the remaining valid candidates, and you just proceed that over and over until you fill all the seats that you need to fill for that office. Okay, that's a good point. You're going to conduct a maximum of 6 elections, right? chair is one, vice chair is one, and so forth. For county delegates, you just cast a single ballot. You might be filling 4 seats, but if you cast a preferential ballot, you can use those same ballots to fill all 4 seats. And for state delegates, if you might fill 2 seats, then you use the same ballots cast for state delegates to fill both of those seats. Did that answer the question?
What about a precinct chair and a vice chair? Do you use the same preferential ballots, or
no.
do you change them?
That's a good question. Do we use the same ballots to fill both the chair and the vice chair? The answer is no, because the duties are different. You have to fill the chairs first, and then you conduct a separate election to fill the vice chair office. Thank you.